Lou, when I saw you, I thought we're going to talk about babies and wombs and
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader, yeah.
And Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. I mean, we covered it. We covered it all. If you didn't get anything out of this, then that's your problem.
It's been good for us.
We love to plug the show.
Yes, BeatiDudes. Welcome back to BeatiDudes Catholic at the Shore edition. I said singular Catholic there. There's lots of us.
One Catholic
at the Shores.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes. Listen, we are at the coolest conference right now on the Jersey Shore, Catholics at the Shore, hosted by Chris McMahon and the Aquinas Wealth Advisors with your faith and finance score for morality and money matters.
Yeah.
Love it.
Check
That's
it
a
out.
good tagline.
That's it.
Hey, the BeatiDudes is a movement that is actually now sweeping the entire nation. Like we have made it to whatever ocean this is right outside here. Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
Atlantic. Yep. We're here.
East Coast Ocean.
And what's really cool is we are surrounded by people in this room. Well, not this room. This room's, there's literally not any people in here, but just downstairs from this room, people that are living their faith in a way that is so magnetic, that is so profound, that is not even the celebrity, the influencer piece of it. It's that they're modeling behaviors the same way that we look to saints in the past and say, I would like to emulate.
It's the attractiveness of like the magnanimity. Right?
Yes.
It's like good for good sake.
I love it. And speaking of good for good sake, my name is Jeff Schiefelbein.
Yep.
What do you think of that? Huh?
And speaking of attractiveness of magnanimity,
Your name is?
Paul Kolker.
And then?
Speaking of greatness at the shore,
You are?
I'm Nick Bezner.
That's
And
it.
we are the BeatiDudes, ladies and gentlemen. Grateful to be here with you. And as we do, we ask the Holy Spirit to present us with a guest when we walk downstairs for coffee.
As we do.
As we do. And you know what we do? Lou. Welcome to the show, Lou.
Thanks for
Massett.
having me.
Oh
Thank
my
you for
gosh,
having
Lou,
me.
thanks for being here. We're going to give
let's
it the
go.
applause button.
Very tremendous, making Catholicism great again. That's what we do.
Lou, we will sit back.
Oh my.
You go for it. The floor is yours. How did you get here, Lou / President Lou?
Well, I work for Students for Life of America.
Yeah, you look like a student.
Yeah, I know I'm perpetual youth.
Yes.
My wife doesn't think so, but anyways, that's another story. But yeah, I work for Students for Life, and I'm here just to spread the word about what we do at Students for Life, and was blessed to encounter you guys last night and heard about the BeatiDudes and went on your website, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And,
Oh, thanks.
Did you learn about the fourth host?
No, I did
The
not.
Eucharist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's three hosts in front of you
host.
you can see, but there's a fourth host. It's the Blessed Sacrament.
Well, since we're on that topic, have you ever heard of the eighth sacrament?
Go ahead.
So I was in the seminary for a little while, and one of my professors said to me one time, he was from Argentina. He said, Luis, do you know what the eighth sacrament of the Catholic Church is? And I was like, okay, what's the punchline here? He's like, it is the sacrament by which most people go to heaven. And I was like, okay, what is it? He said, ignorance.
Do you think maybe you were born to be a BeatiDude?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm in my element right now. This
You
is kind of
are.
cool. Yeah.
We just pump the brakes. You can take over, and we'll just sit
no,
back.
we've got
Make the Beatitudes great again. I just did it all day long.
Or for the first time. That'd be great.
either way.
I'll take 4 more years if that's what you got in store.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a jet either.
Students for Life. Is this college students, high school students? Like, what are we talking here?
So yeah, Students for Life. It is. We are the talent pipeline for the pro-life movement. We are in high schools. We're in colleges across the country. 1,500 campuses. I'll give you an example. Last week, our president, Kristen Hawkins, who to me is the Joan of Arc of our time. She is tremendous. She is a warrior. She was on, had a phone call with Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and talking about how the Trump administration wants to defund Planned Parenthood. But there are 20 fence sitters, right? Rhinos. They're like, So we're like, okay, well, we're going to get our people on the phone, knocking on doors, and we're going to put some political pressure, put the arm on them. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we do, right? It's just like we really get, these kids that are looking for purpose. It's like,
Sure.
you look at today, I don't know if you guys are movie fans. I'm a big I told you earlier, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Marvel movie, yes. Do or do not. There is no try.
This guy's great.
So you know, it's funny. You know,
Marvel movies.
yeah, the Marvel movies, you know, they've made billions of dollars, right? And it's interesting because what it really tells us is that people are looking for heroes.
Yeah.
They're looking for people that, and what do these people do? These heroes, they sacrifice their own lives for the good of others, right? It's so Catholic in principle. It's so Christ-centered, right? So, you know, this is what Students for Life does. And, you know, this is what we really help our kids to see, is that there's something greater in life than your iPhone or your Xbox or your video games, you know. And and the beautiful thing is, through this medium, they get to know our Lord, and they get involved in their faith. So it's a very, very impressive organization. I'm very honored to be a part of it.
You keep up, like, if somebody's part of your programming, do they become alumni and now you're watching their career? Do they? They're part of an ecosystem that continues to grow over time.
Right. They are now in politics, or now they're now leaders. And the interesting thing is this with Dobbs, you know, you had to focus on the Death Star, which was, you know, Roe v. Wade. And I'll actually tell you this. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I was born on January 22nd, 1973
No way.
in Syracuse, New York, which was where the first legal abortion took place in New York.
Wow.
My parents were very pro-life. It's a story I'm writing about in my book. But so, you know, I was destined, in a sense, to be. Sure. You know, my father used to say that to me, like, no pressure, kid, but, you know, there's a reason we were born on that day.
Yeah, you got to kind of live up to something huge.
Yeah.
So we're
No pressure, no diamonds, though.
Yeah. And I'll just, you know, just a
Lou Massett, you're our only hope.
Well, yeah, right. Do or do not, you idiot. No, but so my father and my mom and dad, they were. It's interesting. So, you know, they were like most Catholics that were having a family during the 60s. Vatican II came along, and there was this rumor that, you know, the church was going to change its stance on birth control.
Yep.
And so a lot of people in America were like, oh, great, let's just kind of like, let's get it cut. We're going to get ahead of it. And priests were saying, yeah, it's cool. So my parents, you know, stopped having kids, and they had 5.
Yeah.
And then obviously Humana Vitae came out. And at that same time, my grandmother, my dad's mom, got sick with pancreatic cancer. And he was, you know, he loved his mother, and he's a type A personality. So he wanted to do everything he could to save his mom, right? So he was, by the grace of God, he got a job that was right next to a church, Catholic church. So he started going to mass at noon during his lunch, and they had a rosary, and he would he'd help pray the rosary, and this woman heard his voice, and she was the pro-life leader in Syracuse in this is like 1970, and so she said, Tom, we're going to be doing this pilgrimage to Fatima in a month or two. Would you like to come? And he's like, well, I've got 5 kids, and, you know, I can't afford it. And she was like, okay. Well, 2 weeks later, she came back, and she was like, well, guess what, Tom? One of the people had to back out, and there's a all expense paid ticket with your name on it if you want to go.
Incredible.
So he went, and he had this profound experience. He had met this man that, you know, had a conversion. Or he was healed by Padre Pio, and he told my dad the story. Anyway, so my dad came back on fire with his faith, totally changed his life, and, you know, they were open to life again. And
the lights came on right when you said that.
So, you know, this is all these things about God and the Holy Spirit and hope.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, you know, my father was hoping that his actions would save his mom. But what it did is it brought him and my family. And so, you know, I exist. And my parents had 5 more kids after that.
Praise God. Wow.
Now, they now have 79 grandchildren and 43 great-grandchildren.
Whoa. You hear that, Amanda?
Yeah.
Those are some numbers. Those are
awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Life goals, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. But, you know, the way God moves, right? And these little things sometimes.
Well, it's like that's prayers answered, but they're not what you thought because you're not in control.
Right.
79?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's personal record. I've never heard anything.
This felt like the Easter Vigil, though, because it got really dark outside during the first part of that story.
Yeah.
And it actually messed up our cameras. So we flipped on the lights right when you got to the part about him finding this. So this is
So I'm going to tell a story all over again.
All providential.
It was perfect timing. It was perfect timing.
Beautifully symbolic.
This is fun just to share this with you. All of us are involved in the pro-life movement in various ways. A couple of years ago, I got a chance to do a little bit of coaching and work with the Catholic pro-life community of Dallas, which is the largest Respect Life ministries in any diocese. It's like 30 something employees, and kind of you think about Roe v. Wade and Dallas and everything that kind of started around there. It's always been kind of at the forefront of things, revolving around the beginnings of sidewalk counseling, inspiring the 40 Days for Life work. Well, Nick and I had started this business. We did some work with them, and they're like, "Do you want to do some more work?" And we're like, we'll see. It'd be nice if, there was a little bit different structure so we could have more of an impact than what we were doing. Because when you're trying to help somebody and you can't really move the needle, it's not fun. Fast forward a year later, they actually went through a changeover of the executive director and hired our firm and named me the interim executive director of the Catholic pro-life community of Dallas, and said 2 things. Can you fix the 4 walls of our culture? Like, get us back to being a thriving organization where people are being formed and developed as a team, so we can do our work in this beautiful way and stop having all this kind of infighting in silos and some of this like run down to the bishop and cry about, whatever happened. And listen, there's a lot of reasons it ended up that way, but just over time, it kind of
get back to growth and excitement.
Exactly.
And,
and so we said yes. And they said, also, let's start looking under the hood and see if there's any other organizations that we can start merging back together. Like this idea of less logos, more impact. Can we be a unified front? And so we are now 11 months into a complete cultural turnaround that I'm very happy to report is, going from whatever grade it was before to like probably an A- in a very strong, in fact, the people we just hired in the last 2 weeks are unbelievable that they would come to this organization. I'm so proud. So we have all the pieces in place. We're growing. And then in 2 weeks, we will sign the paperwork to merge one of the Catholic pregnancy resource centers in town is becoming a full-fledged part of the Catholic pro-life community. So you have this continuum of care.
That's great.
So as I told you on the walk up here, I'm like, we're very involved in this work.
Yeah.
We just, it's hard to put all that on a website.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is it's a multifaceted front. There's many, there's war, for the gospel of life.
That's right.
That's the thing. It's like, it's the gospel of life. What does that mean? Is that, and I've tried to look at it from a poetic way sometimes where it's like, when you think about, what really is going on in this idea is that it is degrading the person, the whole, contraceptive abortion mindset. It's degrading the person to mechanical things, right? Which is like the, lust and, appetite, and when you do that, you degrade the very nature of the relationship of a man and woman and the beauty and the poetry and the profound cosmic divine aspect that is there, right? That, women are now, seeing utilitarian, you have porn, you have all these things that are happening because you've degraded, the very concept of what a person is, right? And so I think that what you guys are doing and what's happening is you're seeing in a sense like Star Wars, the rebellion is coming. That's rising as people are now saying, okay, enough of this madness. They're seeing the harm of it now. The reality of the harm of it is just in every family, right? In different ways that it affects us, but it all is rooted to the sense of losing the sense of the sacred.
I think you know this, but a lot of these alumni of Students for Life, some of their calling is to be parts of a family, right? To grow a family and whatever that is for them, right? Or it's to be living their faith, but be an accountant somewhere. It doesn't mean you always have to be working at the nonprofit. You live a pro-life lifestyle. It's funny though, I have 7 children. They're all young. When I walk into places, especially in cultures where that's not accepted or normal, you feel this like angst amongst the people, like, oh, I can't believe like you're ruining the world with your 7 children. Like you can feel this like, but I think that's actually the human heart hurting and wounded by their own view. Not how many children they have, not what they're doing with their children, like literally a woundedness that they would even believe that to be possibly true, I think is angsty. And then you have the other side, which is people that come up and they're like, you're a hero, are all these kids your grandkids? And I'm like, they're my kids, you jerk.
I have a funny story about that. I started off in education. I'm a big fan of classical education.
Yeah.
And a lot of these schools just needed resources. So I kind of leaned into the fundraising aspect of it. But I wanted to learn the best practices in fundraising. So I started working at these military schools, and they were Christian, not Catholic, not having this idea of, being open to life. So when I would tell people that I had 7 kids, they'd be like, "Oh, you have 7 kids? Holy smokes! I can't believe it."
With this guy.
So I always tell them this. I always made up the story that kind of like just like lower the temperature. I said, well, what happened was we couldn't have kids, which is true. We had infertility problems for 7 years. And I said, my wife and I were told about doing this novena to Padre Pio. So we went to San Giovanni Rotondo and we did the novena and lit the candle. And as soon as we came back, my wife got pregnant with the first child. And then like 11 months later, we had a second child. And then I said, when the 7th child came, my wife told me, and I started packing my bags, and she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to blow out that doggone candle." And so all these guys thought it was so funny, right? They thought it was so funny. But once they laughed, laughter,
they let it go. Yeah.
It was like, then I could talk to them about the real reason.
The real,
right? Which is saying that, life is, there's such a gift. And I said, God doesn't give them to you all at once. It's like marathon running. You don't start running the marathon 20 miles the first day.
Yeah.
And I said, I wouldn't trade one of them. So it was just a beautiful way. It was a subtle way that God gave me the grace to be able to, diffuse their kind of like the drawbridge goes up like, this guy is a weirdo.
That was the thing that connected for me, I think, at a young age, and just like this concept of openness to life of like, and I was, I don't know, a 10, 12-year-old boy at the time, but like, I knew that my parents wouldn't sell me for any amount of money. So therefore, children are probably the most valuable thing. So why wouldn't you want to like multiply that as best you can? Like the blessings just...
Can I affirm you? Yeah. Like the way your brain works is so fascinating to me, because what you just said is beautiful. It's true. I'm sure there's people that just connected to it.
Sure.
And it was an equation that was a logical mathematical equation that is so true that it can't equal false. The spreadsheet of
that's
life.
Right. Yeah. That's what clicked for my brain. Right?
Awesome.
You excel at that kind of logic.
Deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts. What brought you to Catholics at the Shore, which is the conference we're at in New Jersey?
Well, Kristen Hawkins came and spoke last year.
She did.
And my job is to connect with folks and to make friends, and to just spread the good news of what we're doing.
You're good at it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it is. I love it. I told Kristen, and I told my boss Maddie. I said, this is the most enjoyable job I've ever had. Just going out and talking to people about this stuff, and I've met some beautiful souls, such beautiful souls, and it gives. Talk about our theme for this week is hope, right? And it's like it gives me so much hope. And it's been pretty impressive with, the win back in November and whatnot. There's been a lot of reasons for Americans to hope, and I'm excited about Pope Leo the 14th, and I think that there's some really great signs, for the church and for America.
Have you subscribed to the BeatiDudes yet?
No, I didn't do that last time.
I was going
to say, are they going to invite me onto their show? If they do, then I will. That was what happened. So now
you're a holdout.
That explains why.
Many of you also.
Our growth trajectory is about 1 a week.
So it's slightly better.
It is better than that.
Slightly better than that.
It is better than that. Do you want to experience an amazing growth trajectory of fun?
Yes.
This trajectory is called "Blessed are the joke makers, for they shall inherit the points."
There is a storm brewing right now. Do you hear this?
It's beyond brewed. It's percolating. This is going to be another Catholics at the Shore edition, 150 points.
Love this. All right, and the way this works. Oh well, we saw that one. Hold on, I can't tell which way these are in this baggie.
Yeah, it's hard.
Just grab them. All right, there we go. All right, so we got a Catholic card game card, a character card. You have to, all of us, you get to judge us, but all of us have to become this character to answer the prompt.
You don't have to. The 3 BeatiDudes.
That's right. You're the judge.
But given all of your voices, you might just win this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll sit back and judge you.
Can I do my Simon Cowell? Boring cabaret. Boring.
No, you can judge us that way.
Do that for real, though.
Yeah. Give us the X on America's Got Talent. We don't have it.
So here we go. So the character we all have to become is, this is perfect. As a new parent, the Catholic card game card says, the Pope is writing about blank right now.
Since the new Pope is Catholic, he knew when Starbucks came around and that how important that was to new parents, and having the 7 kids that just magically showed up in my life all at once instead of over time. The new Pope, He's thinking back to that third place, and he's writing Humana Vente. It's about having a Vente-sized coffee to go along with your humans.
Winner.
He already won.
As a new parent of twins, I would like to say that I'm thankful that the Pope is writing about fatherhood right now, because I am their father.
Dude, that was really... Okay, sorry, Nick. You should have gone faster.
No pressure, Nick.
Hey, do it for your kids.
Well, right now, the new Pope is writing about how hospitals need to be reformed and have smokestacks in each room so that if it's a boy, it'll be white smoke. And if it's a girl, it'll be black smoke.
I think that's really good. I think he deserves a pat on the back. You know, some people like to really throw off the BeatiDudes and just give points to the worst person.
Sometimes.
It's happened.
Going first is always very difficult. I mean, you have to break the ice.
Yeah.
So I would give you points just for that. So is this the judging time?
Yeah. Give out
so who's
points.
the winner?
Well, I would say I'd have to say I have to go with Nick.
Oh, let's go.
And it's an upset because I just don't like kiss ups. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. You never
That goes
know.
back to your teaching days, bro.
Okay. I thought it was on brand. It was on theme.
Man, you never know. You
know what? I'm
Took
sorry.
off that helmet to kiss off.
You even called me a winner after I started.
I know, but then he just mastered that with the
Pulled it out.
Oh my goodness.
That was impressive. I'm
Lou,
sorry.
for being our celebrity guest judge, Paul,
Look out,
will you do
Paul.
the honors and hand him these socks?
These are the Sacred Heart socks from Sock Religious. It's a heart of mercy. So I'm going to have mercy on you for faking me out there.
We needed this to happen because we need your heart to mend, Paul.
That's it. I have
Those are
to
one
heal.
size fits most. Sorry if you're size 14 or larger, they won't fit.
Lou,
but
in
you can
addition
find
to that,
from-
you can wear all three of our faces on the back of your leg. You're getting some BeatiDudes socks that really actually open a lot of doors in the Catholic world. When you jump kick them, the
You
doors...
can get your BeatiDudes socks by visiting us. That's only in person. But
I just want to say one thing. I just, it's kind of like the comedian at heart doesn't like when people, riff on their product. And that's what it was. I just felt like
You feel guilty right now, Lou. You feel guilty about giving the points.
No, I
to
don't
Nick.
actually. I'm a teacher. I'm trying to elevate his game. Like you got to creativity.
okay.
You have to have the creativity.
No, I appreciate your condescension. That's great.
Hey, I'm from New York. Forget about it. It's what we do.
Okay, we're just going straight. We're not even jumping into commercial break. If they add one later, that's their fault. But you know what one of our greatest sponsors is? Aquinas Wealth Advisors here at the Catholics at the Shore.
absolutely. Aquinas Wealth, they've got the faith and finance score. It's a little, it's like getting your grade back on a test. You're like, I didn't really study for this.
Well, you get your grade back on where your money's going, and you realize you're cheating.
Yeah, right.
You get caught cheating.
Yeah, you're not aligned in the things that you're investing in with your faith. And so they can help you with that.
Or maybe you thought your money was going to something that was going to reward you, but then at the last second, it doesn't reward you.
Pew, 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 pew.
And sometimes you just pull one out of the hat.
That's it.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
This is a Death Star moment for sure.
Feel your anger.
Makes you strong.
Is it Star Wars like your favorite impersonations? You got one that's your favorite?
No, I've got a lot of impersonations I could do.
We're here for it. Do you want to do like a celebrity death match? Me and Nick will get on the table and you do the voices for us.
Do you remember? I don't know. How old are you?
Don't do this.
I'm sorry.
Not on air.
Okay.
He's 46.
When I was in 8th grade, I did a Ronald Reagan imitation in 8th grade for this talent show, and it was like
Crushed it.
You crushed it. It was just
Do it now.
So
they know who Ronald Reagan is.
Well, on behalf of Nancy and myself, yes. I'm the Big Gipper, don't mess with me. I'm the baddest rapper this side of D.C. With my best girl Nancy as my spouse, rapping to you from that big White House.
That's awesome.
You're amazing.
As a spiritual successor to you later on, I came along and I'd like to say I really appreciated what you did with the strategery of your presidency.
Oh, that's good. That's impressive. You know, my favorite Bush is when he's like, "We have a Shay in Texas.
Fool me once.
Fool me. Don't get fooled again.
You know what the best part about that is if you could see what's going on in his brain is like it went blank, and then all of a sudden he just had this like flashback of like the Who won't get fooled again. That's what came blurting out. You know?
It's so good. And then he has that deal where he's being interviewed on a golf course, and he's like, "We will catch these terrorist killers. Now watch this drive."
That's right.
He's off.
That was the clip they used in Bowling for Columbine to try to make him look like he had no idea. Watch this drive.
Now watch this drive.
That is a really good imitation. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm taking that back. You're
No, because I pandered too hard.
You
so,
did. You were
yeah,
okay. I'm sorry.
You did.
I have no principles.
I didn't do anything. You can give me whatever you want. You can give me points, I mean. Yeah.
I will...
Points for life.
We are all dumber for having
My George
heard you.
Washington impression is spot on, but nobody believes it. You know, they just don't know.
It's George Washington.
He just did it. That was it.
This is it.
I cannot tell a lie.
Okay, so what's on the horizon for Students for Life?
Well, our big...
I'm known as the guy who brings it back to serious all the time. You know?
Totally.
I dig it. Yep. Picking up what you're laying down.
Smelling what you're stepping in.
We are, focusing on the defund Planned Parenthood and chemical abortion is a big thing. Now, here's a kind of like not to drag it down a little bit, but one of these things that is a really big deal that Kristen has, been talking about. What we've been focusing on is how these chemicals that they're using for the chemical abortion and for contraception, and whatnot, is actually getting into our drinking water.
Terrible. Ugh.
It's a real problem.
Yeah.
And we want to, raise awareness, of this because, it's something that affects all of us.
Sure.
So those are the big things.
Well, I saw Robert Kennedy now is going to be leaning into like the side effects of mifepristone, and there's apparently some clinical outcomes that are like the side effects are far worse than they're claiming.
You're saying they didn't tell us the truth? What? I just got banned again.
Can you imitate him?
Well, I think that we could do a lot better with what we have going on with our medications.
He got it. He had to work into it.
That's good. That was really
minute,
good. Impressive. Most impressive.
This is the impression. I'd have a lot of impressions, but I've been warned not to do them.
Well, it's because they all devolve into the same impression.
It hurts the ratings, is apparently what I've heard. Yeah.
He starts somewhere, but they always
Aloha! Stitch.
Yeah, he merges to
He goes back into Stitch.
Pangea, I think is what he.
Yeah, I'm everybody. Yeah.
Everyone, everywhere, all at once.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Nick, when it comes to investing, I just feel like money and morality don't always line up. What's the answer?
Often that's the case, but our friends at Aquinas Wealth Advisors have a really great solution. It's called the Faith and Finance Score. You go on their website and you put in your info. They tell you where you're invested and where it doesn't actually line up with where you want to be.
So you mean I don't just have to funnel money towards a retirement fund where I don't know what it's investing in?
That's right, you don't. And you don't even have to give up or sacrifice returns. You can get both.
So just get on the computer, bing, and I type in the website.
AquinasWealth.com. It takes longer to type than it does to get your faith and finance score.
Thanks, guys. Great job, Nick.
You betcha.
You know what I think is hard about starting a business? Healthcare, for crying out loud. It's expensive. It's intimidating. At the end of the day, you're probably paying for stuff you don't even agree with. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
I knew you could. So what we did is we started working with Solidarity Health Share. Totally different. These folks are aligned with us morally and ethically. And even the structure from a cost perspective works for us as we're launching businesses, as we're growing our families. And I don't know if you know this, but a couple times my kids went to the hospital in the last 2 years.
They sure have.
Yours? But Solidarity has walked with us through all of it, including some crazy stuff for Benny Pro, my little boy. So all of this to say, I would encourage anybody out there thinking about their own business, their own needs, check out Solidarity Health Share for a better alternative to regular healthcare. So check out learnmore.solidarityhealthshare.org/BeatiDudes.
Hi, it's Paul Kolker from the BeatiDudes here, and I just wanted to share with you guys that I also, outside of the show, perform improv comedy on a regular basis with a group called Divine Comedy. So what we do is we come up with everything on the spot, so whether you're looking for faith-filled, fun, family-friendly comedy for your youth night, or whether you're looking for clean comedy for your corporate event, Divine Comedy can perform for your group and even get you in on the action. So if you'd like to hire us to come out and perform for your next event, check out DivineComedyImprov.com. Divine Comedy, an inferno of fun.
Okay, so that's the big push right now, and I think that people need to get involved in this. They need to understand that in some weird way, winning in the Supreme Court, I think, caused a lot of big problems because people took their foot off the gas. They thought there was the race was won.
Yeah.
It was just
the beginning. Yeah.
As big as it was one of the smallest victories compared to what's actually happened.
Right. It just moved. It just kind of moved the line in a sense. And I'll give you an example. We were at the March for Life at the summit, and I had a gentleman I met, Mike Moore, great guy from Phoenix. He said, I met him in the elevator and we ended up talking for like 2 hours. He was like, the challenge is that, we had this big victory, but now it's moved to the states. And it's like, Arizona had, the state laws were moderate, their abortion laws. But once, Roe happened, you had now, the less
extreme.
Yeah. They have the most extreme, laws in Arizona. And it's like, we didn't really have the support, and what we're doing, and one of the great things about our organization is we are really connected to all the states, and it's even more important now for guys like me is to connect people and for us to understand what is the game plan, what are the states doing, and to share that with our team, and what's happening in the 50 states that well, it's not 50 now, but
with the sidewalk counseling, we thought about this a lot through the CPLC. You have this world where people used to, this is Texas, I know there's still sidewalk counseling in other places, but you used to have somebody would get out of a car and they could see people praying for them. They could see most of the people that were there in this loving gaze of trying to encounter and trying to be a support to them, and even offering them other services so that they could understand what's actually available. And as bad and as hard as that decision was, there was at least a visibility to other humans. The abortions that have moved into the home and into the mail order drugs is the most lonely thing I can imagine, that you're going through this terrible time where you feel like you have no other options, or you've started to believe something that is against what your human heart has been naturally built to want. And now you're doing it in the loneliness of your restroom. Like that breaks my heart. I don't think before getting involved in CPLC, I had a good understanding of healing after abortion from a retreat, from a sacramental standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. And many people in our lives have abortion experiences, whether their own or somebody that they're close to, or something they didn't stop, or that they endorsed, or that they went along, whatever. Sure. This idea that this is a very tough thing to carry or to hide or to bury or whatever. That's true. And these healing after abortion retreats are so beautiful because people get to have this encounter again. They get to write letters to or name or connect to in a sacramental way in the Catholic faith, this loss, this tragedy. But gosh, now we can't even encounter people on the sidewalks because it's all in this weird
through the mail.
Sorrowful moment.
Yeah, no, that's a profound point. I had dated a girl back in the 90s, and I found out that she had told me that she had an abortion. And I had to talk to her about the faith and was trying to help her to understand that God's mercy. But for her, to your point, for her, it was actually the teachings of limbo. Like she couldn't fathom the idea that the baby she aborted wouldn't be with God. Like the idea of limbo was the grief of that, the shame, or whatever, sure. the pain of that. And I've known women that have had miscarriages. And it's like it's a human being, right? And there's that sense of that loss of that baby. And they, still mourn that child's loss. So and that, again, there's this point of dehumanizing, right? It becomes like it becomes remote, and it's not real, and it's not present to our senses. And we think of, like, as Catholics, the sacraments are these signs, these outward signs, right, that do help bolster us. Christ worked miracles to show, right, to see, because we are these these
sense beings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I agree with you. That's a good point.
Can I give you my soapbox?
Do it.
All right. It's all about us as a society, then as Christians, then especially as Catholics, and especially as the Catholic Church. So hear this out. We have all these organizations that pay for out-of-state abortions. They pay for frozen embryos. They pay for all this stuff. They don't recognize the dignity of the human. They want you to work hard, right? Well, I'm going to go to the very extreme. One of them that does all those things and has an unlimited PTO is Bumble. Bumble's a hookup app. People just hook up. Bumble has led to countless pregnancies, countless abortions. Like, let's just say how bad this thing is. Okay, so I'm just trying to paint for you the worst of the worst thing on your phone if you download this app is Bumble, okay? Yet, in their unlimited PTO policy, they recognize how hard it is for people to take time off to grieve unless you create something that's not just normative, but instructive around grief. So they recognize, get this, if you're in domestic abuse, you have a forced minimum amount of time off that you need to take. If you have a miscarriage, you are forced minimum, could be longer, 2 weeks of time off. You could have multiple miscarriages in the same year. Every time, at least 2 weeks off. So the worst of the worst tech enabling abortion driving company recognizes the loss of the human being in this miscarriage. And we have worked with countless churches and nonprofits, and I speak about this stuff, and people come up and they tell me their horror stories. Good luck finding organizations in the Christian world, the Catholic world, the diocese world, and the parish world that will recognize the miscarriage the same way Bumble does. That will not just say, okay, but people start to have this like almost fear of looking weak by taking more time off. They're grieving the loss of their child. And then in the Redbird Ministries people, I said this to Kelly Bro, who started Redbird Ministries, is for people that lose a kid, whether in the womb or, a kid in adulthood or as a child. And she said that she wanted to, help me drive another message, which was, we even use language as Catholics that we say, at least it was only 8 weeks. Like we have this justification, at least you got to meet yours. And you're like, what? Like at least, or it wasn't 20 weeks yet. It happened, we're kind of justifying to each other or even to ourselves instead of just being like, this is a loss. It is a loss. Yeah. It is real. It hurts. And it's the same human being as any of us sitting at this table. So, I actually had a really cool opportunity just recently because I talk about this so much and I make people really uncomfortable with it. I actually will talk to priests all the time about what is their bereavement policy for miscarriage. And they all kind of look at me and I'm like, you don't have one and your employees are suffering and nobody knows how to even bring it up to you. And it makes them mad because they're like, if people gave me more money, then we could have better policies. And I'm like, that's the dumbest fixed mindset I've ever heard.
So
you're missing how this works.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got in a fight with a priest about a month ago. It was pretty amazing. But then
he had a wicked right cross.
Yeah. Except for that cassock slowed him down. And I said, nice try, ding dong. So then, true story, we ran into a situation recently and we were able to say, this is a chance for you to show up in a big way. And that church did. So I'll just leave it at that.
So cool. Can I share another little story? So when I went to Christendom College, met my wife there, but one time we had Alice von Hildebrand came and she was giving a talk on feminism and why feminism is actually anti-feminine. Mm-hmm. And the essence of it was that she said that, look, the problem... In short, she said that the problem with feminism is it's actually diminishing the outworking of what femininity is, and it's saying women need to be more like men, right? Which is actually anti-feminine. But she said the essential reason why feminism is or true feminism is so profound. And she said, example, in tradition, men would open a door for a woman, they would pull out a chair so she could sit down. And she said the reason is that at the moment of conception, the Holy Spirit comes and you have what they call it, like the zinc spark, whatever, the moment of conception, God breathes life into that soul. And so the womb is a sacred place, and women have this sense of the sacredness of women, why women should be treated with such dignity. And I thought that was just so profound, and it's like, so when you think of a mother that's like, when I'm carrying, like my wife, because we had infertility problems for the first 7 years, we couldn't have kids. And it really was deeply painful for her, right? That her very purpose. I mean, she said it in a way for God. She's like, imagine if you were impotent Like, whoa! I was like, it's like you kind of get a sense of like what it is, of virility of men. You know what I'm saying? We're like strong, and it's like the sense of like I'm not whole, right? And but that sense of like carrying a child is such a profound thing. So, this is the part of I think the struggle or the mission of the pro-life movement is to make people aware of the sanctity of life, right? And these signs, right, that you're saying, that this actually shows that there's something profound happening here.
Yeah.
And just, you can't, we live in a world where people can, change their gender and say, oh, I prefer they, them, or whatever. It's like, the ultimate perversion of reality, right? Where it's like, we just become gods. We all become gods to ourselves and define our own reality. That's the problem,
Lou, I got to share this. It's just on my heart too. My wife, we always have C-sections. So we know the date and the time. I mean, there's no surprises, right? So we don't know the gender. But she said something profound to me maybe 2 or 3 babies ago, which just sounds awesome to be able to say that sentence. But it was, we're at Mass on a Sunday, and, we're going to have this baby on Monday morning. And she is like in this like anticipation and gravity. And she looks at me and she goes, this is the last time this baby is going to receive the Eucharist for like 7 years. I was like, that is so beautiful that you can do this. You can provide this. You are nourishing this baby, not just with the nutrients of building the body, but building the spiritual life before you've ever even given birth to this child. So Lou, when I saw you, I thought we're going to talk about babies and wombs and
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader, yeah.
And Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. I mean, we covered it. We covered it all. If you didn't get anything out of this, then that's your problem.
It's been good for us.
We love to plug the show.
Listen, if you got something out of this, then 5 stars is all we're asking for.
Yeah. Share, like, and subscribe.
Do it.
I don't know. How do we do this? I want somebody to be like, if I were to write an article about us, write some article about what this did for you and post it everywhere. That's what I'm really asking for. I don't want just pressing the 5-star button.
There you go.
You don't want pressing, you want press releasing.
And you know what?
Bingo.
After that, be like Lou. Go down to your local church and mass it.
Boom. And on that beautiful note, we will see you in the Eucharist.
God bless.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to join us at our undersized table, subscribe to the video version of the show on YouTube by typing @ that's the symbol @, so shift and 2 on your keyboard, @the_BeatiDudes on YouTube. We'll see you there.